Okay, in this screencast, we're going to have a look at some of the planning documentation. Now, a lot of you have done this already, but as we've progressed through the database, you've made changes. So we need to make sure that the planning documentation is fully up to date, and any changes that you have made have been reflected in those documents. Now, you should already have these documents. If you haven't, then you can grab them from Moodle, from the AICT coursework course. Year 13, you'll have you've got access to these as well. Okay, so we need to go through you've all done the database proposal. We need to look at the database table structure and the query design first of all. Okay, so if you download the templates for the table structure, there is an exemplar there for you as well, so we have a quick look at that first. It's a PDF and it gives you an example here of the field name, the text, the field size, any input masks that you've used, or there's an option here for you to put the validation rule or lookup wizard. Okay, so this is the table structures document. I've just quickly noticed that we've missed off the lookup off this table. So very quickly, if you right click, insert, and insert a column to the right, okay, that will add an additional column for you, and you can put lookup there. Okay, you can save this, create a copy of the table and paste it. Okay, I've put 2 there for you. So if you perhaps do it down here as well, so right click, insert column to the right, and just quickly add look up there as well. Okay, I'm going to do one quick example. You will need to do this for all the fields from all the tables in your database. So if we go back to the Year 12 database, I'm going to put the customers table into design view. Okay, and I've just got some, just change this postcode here from earlier on, WR71GF. Okay, so I should be able to save that now and put that back into design view. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to go through each one of these fields and add them, if they're not done already, to the planning document, and I'm going to add any validation or any formatting or any input masks that I've got in my table. Now, depending on your computer, screen size, etc., you might find it easier, I often do, to use split screen. Okay, so I'm going to put my database on the left and back into my Word document and put my Word document on the right hand side. Just makes it a little bit easier. So I can see first of all field name, well, table name needs changing, so this is TBL customers. Okay, the field name, the first one is customer ID. Okay, the data type is the auto number. Okay, the field size, now this is where we might just have to nudge things around a little bit. The field size on this one, it just says long integer. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it back into my field size. Okay, under here as well, I'm also going to pop in brackets primary key. Okay, so we can see that the customer ID is a primary key, and you can see that indicated here with the little key icon. Input mask, haven't got any input masks, haven't got any validation rules, and it doesn't look up. So that's that one done. Okay, so the next one would be company name, contact title, and so on. But let's go to the ones that we put the validation on. First of all, contact first name. So I'm going to copy contact first name. Okay, I'm using my keyboard shortcuts, Control and C. Back to my table structure. Okay, and I'll probably be able to work okay from here on split screen. So if we pop this one over here and the database over here, that's better. So I'm going to skip a few. So company name, contact name, company name, contact name. So I'll be going from here. Okay, so it's contact first name. Okay, the data type is text. Okay, the field size is 10. Perhaps split screen isn't going to work with the field size, so I'll pop 10 in there. The input mask, we haven't got one, but we've got a validation rule. Okay, is not null, so I'll copy the validation rule and put that into the validation rule row there. Okay, and I haven't got a lookup. So it really is a case of just going through the database, making sure the field name, the data type, field size, input mask, validation rule, and the lookup if you've got one, which you have, match. I think I'll just do another very quick couple of examples. I'll do one for the input mask, and we put the input mask on postcode. Okay, so just noting, I'm going to copy that one and note that the field size was 7. Pop that back over there. So let's pop postcode in here. The data type was text, or is text. The field size was 7. And I'm going to paste the input mask in there. So that's the input mask done. And we need to do a lookup as well. Okay, so the field I'm going to use for the lookup is the contact title. Okay, we can see it's, we've made notes under our descriptions of which fields we're going to be lookups, and we've also done the same for business type as well. But I want to draw your attention to the lookup tab. Okay, usually you're on the general tab, that's where will have been working. If we look at the lookup tab, we can see the row source. Now this indicates that there is a lookup, and it gives us select table titles. So it's telling us the table and the fields that we're looking at. So what we can do is right click and copy, and then we'll take that over and paste that into our table. So we'll say the field name is contact title. Okay, it's number. Okay, and the field size, we haven't got, let's just miss that out for a minute. We'll put the lookup in. Okay, so that's in. We haven't got a validation rule, we haven't got an input mask, we just need to check the field size, long integer. Okay, so we'll just pop long integer into there. Okay, so that's that one done. So there's 3 examples there, it was 4. The first one being the customer ID, which is the primary key. The second one being the contact first name, where we put text, the field size, and the validation rule. There's the postcode, where we included text, again the field size, and the input mask. And finally, we've got an example here of a lookup, which was contact title, the data type being number, and the field size being long integer. So what you'll need to do next is just quickly work through your table structure document, making sure that the field names, data types and everything now match up with what you've actually done in your database. And of course, as I did, create a new column on the right hand side for your lookups and copy over the lookup as well. Okay, so next let's have a look at the documentation for the queries. Just to remind you, you had to do 4 query types: a single query with criteria, or with criteria, single query with no criteria, parameter query, and a multi-table query. Now the query planning is on Moodle. You'll find it here. There is an exemplar. If we have a quick look at that one, it gives you an example of what you will need to do. And I'm going to run through it very quickly as well. You'll need to, if you haven't done so already and worked on this document, download the query design templates, which I've got open here. Okay, it's a blank version. And you can see we've got space for the query name, the query type, the purpose of the query, the table and fields, and any criteria that you've added to that query. So let's have a go and do it practically. So we'll go over to our database. For my example, I'm going to use the invoice query. So we'll start with our customers table, because we've got the customers table here. And we'll pop over into the query design document, okay, and the query name was query invoice, so QRY invoice. Okay, the query type is a multi-table query, and the purpose of this query, well, let's go back and have a look at the query to just remind ourselves of the purpose. It's an invoice query, so the purpose is to get the information we need from these 3 different tables in order to produce and send an invoice. So if we go back to query design, and the purpose is to produce an invoice. Now it's a multi-table query, so I'm going to need to insert some additional rows. So I'll insert rows below. Now I'm going to use my keyboard shortcuts Control and Y just to redo. So I'm pressing Control and Y just to put a few additional rows in there. I'll add quite a few, and I can delete any additional ones that I don't need. So first of all, we'll go back to our table. Okay, and the table name is table customers, and the field is contact title. So TBL customers, and the field is contact title. And on this field, we didn't have any sorting or any other criteria or show that we add. So we'll go back to the database and just check. Okay. Well, we've got show that they're all to be shown. So I think for show, we'll just put yes. Okay. Back into our query then. Okay. So you need to repeat that step there for contact first name, contact surname, company name, building name, etc. And just keep your eye on the table names, so you can copy that all the way down until you get to performance. Okay, so the last one we've got for customers is postcode and table customers. So very, very quickly, obviously you miss, you fill in between, but I'm going to put TBL customers, and the field is postcode. Okay, back into the database. Now the next table we're working with is table production schedule, and the field is performance. So back to our query design, and this time it's TBL productions schedule, and the field name was performance. Okay, so you can see how we're going to start building it up, and obviously we do the next fields that we've got from table productions schedule, and then we work across the database and add any additional tables that we need in there. Now just to highlight this one here, because this one has criteria on it. So we've got send invoice from table production schedule, and the criteria is true. Okay, so table productions schedule, I'm going to copy that. Okay, the field is send invoice, and this time the criteria is true. Okay, so that's how we're going to build up our query design. So it's a case now of looking at each individual query, opening it up, working through the query in design view, and making sure what you've got in your query matches up with what you've got in your query design documents. Okay, so after we've done our queries, if we go back to Moodle, okay, and next we've got report design. Okay, there's an exemplar here. Now this can be done, it should be done in Publisher. You're going to just create a mock-up really of what your reports look like. Okay, so open up your report, have a look at your reports, and then start to create the reports in desktop publishing software, for example, Microsoft Publisher. So if we go back into our database and let's have a look at some of these reports, we've got the report invoice. Okay, so there's my report invoice. So in Publisher, I'll open up Publisher and I will literally just mock up using auto shapes and labels the layout and design of the form. Now I did say in the screencasts when I was doing the reports that you need to add your CT Productions logo, and you need to make yours look a little bit more pretty than mine. Okay, mine are just working examples. So use Microsoft Publisher and mock up the different reports that you've created. Once you've completed your reports, it's back into Moodle, back to the AICT coursework homepage, and we'll scroll down, and next we're going to do the form design. Now again there's an exemplar. Okay, if we have a look at the exemplar, again it's been done in Publisher. This one unfortunately I've created it as a PDF and it's split it over 2 pages. But if we go back to the Moodle course page, there is a Publisher file here for you to download. So if you've got Microsoft Publisher, you can download this and use that to get you started. And obviously keep it in line with what's in the exemplar here. Okay, so all you're doing is mocking up those forms. So let's have a look at a form. Let's take the 7-day reminder. So in Publisher, it would be a case of using a text label for company name and just using the auto shapes to draw a rectangle box to put space there for the text entry. Very quickly, if we go back into the exemplar, you can see that some of these have they've been labelled. Okay, so for example, with buttons which are on the form, you can draw those in, give them a colour and text label, and just write a brief description of what that button does. And finally, we're going to have a look at quickly doing the macro design. Now again on Moodle, there's the exemplar, and there's also a template for you to download use. Okay, first of all, looking at the exemplar, which I've got open over here, we can see it's the usual table structure. We need to put the macro name, the purpose, description of the macro, and the set actions that we've included in that macro. So if we go over to the database and have a look at the example macro that we did, the one I did my example on was closing the database. So the macro is attached to this form button. Let's open up the macro and have a look. Okay. And we can see here that we've got the close window object, the object name is form switchboard, so the actions are there for us. Okay, so back into our macro templates. Okay, so this one we would say macro name is close. It wasn't, it was, let's have a look, what was it? It was mac close. Okay, so mac close. The purpose of the macro was, or is, to close the switchboard form. And the actions, so if you go back into the macro, are here. Okay, so object name, switchboard, save, no, and the object type is the form. Okay, and the action there is the close window. So back into the macro design, action is close window. Okay, and prompt is no. Okay, so that's the first macro. Now I've given you an example there of one of the macros. If you have a look in the macro exemplar, it gives you some additional ideas. Looking at most of these, print cards, print invoice, print highest bidder, and print car list. So let's go back into our database. So we've got various reports here. So you could use a macro to print a report. You could use a macro like I've done to close some forms. So in our form design, when we looked at those, we added some buttons, save record, exit record, etc. You could also use a macro to exit the form as well. So you could create a couple of macros to exit the form, which would then load up the switchboard, and those would be a couple of additional macros that you could do, but of course make sure you add them to your macro design.